Ever seen someone's face go from victory to terror in exactly 30 seconds? That's what happened to our HOA president, Ruby Miller. This woman saw my wife's gun and decided to play hero. Called 911 like she'd spotted a terrorist. "Armed woman threatening our neighborhood," she screamed into the phone. I watched from our window as 6 police cars screeched up, officers jumping out with weapons drawn surrounding my wife. Ruby stood there with this smug little smile, probably already planning her "I save the community" speech. Then my wife reached for her ID. 30 seconds later, those same cops were saluting her. Tell me you're watching. Where from? The first day I met Ruby Miller, I realized she had 2 obsessions: perfect order and anything that looked remotely like a weapon. And folks, when I say obsessions, I mean the kind that makes your skin crawl when you realize this person has way too much power over your daily life. She showed up at our door exactly 15 minutes after the moving truck left. Military precision timing. This woman had an iPad clutched against her chest, a stack of papers thick enough to kill a small animal, and this smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You know the type? The one that says, "I'm being friendly," but really means, "I'm cataloging everything about you for future use." "Welcome to Oakwood Heights," she chirped, and I swear the exclamation point was audible. "I'm Ruby Miller, your HOA president, and I've already emailed you our community regulations, all 67 pages. Just need your signature here, acknowledging receipt." 67 pages? Who writes 67 pages of rules for a neighborhood? While she talked, she kept glancing around our front yard, making little notes on her tablet, like she was conducting an inspection. At first I thought she was just thorough, but then I noticed she was recording everything with her phone. "Just for our neighborhood newsletter," she explained, when she caught me staring, but the way she angled that phone, she was capturing our entire front door, our driveway, even our windows. Who records people for a newsletter without asking permission? That's when her phone rang, and she stepped away just far enough that she thought I couldn't hear. But, guys, I've got good ears. New house at 1847. Yes, I'll screen them thoroughly. No obvious violations yet, but we'll see. Screen us. What the hell were we job applicants? We hadn't even unpacked our first box. The real fun started that evening, when Sophia came home around 10 p.m. My wife working late wasn't unusual. New job first week, trying to make a good impression. She looked exhausted. Her blazer wrinkled her hair in this messy bun that screamed, "I've had enough of today." And there it was, hanging from her right hip. Her service weapon in its holster, as natural as wearing a watch. I was grabbing the mail when Ruby materialized from behind the hedge. I swear this woman had radar for interesting situations, appearing faster than a vulture spotting roadkill. "Excuse me," she called out, voice dripping with fake sweetness. The kind of people use when they're fishing for information they have no business knowing. Sophia paused with one foot on our bottom step, looking up with mild confusion. Ruby pointed directly at Sophia's hip, eyes locked on that holster, like she'd spotted a live grenade. I couldn't help but notice, what exactly is that? Here's what bothered me about Ruby's reaction. She wasn't scared. Most people see a gun and get nervous or curious, but Ruby looked excited, like she'd found exactly what she'd been hoping for. My wife looked down at her weapon with tired patience. "It's a service weapon. I have all the proper permits and licensing required by law." But Ruby wasn't satisfied. She stepped closer, and I could see the gears turning. Service weapon. What kind of service requires that? The way she said that made it sound like Sophia was carrying medieval torture equipment. My wife rubbed her temples, a sure sign her patience was running thin, and sighed. "Security work. The specialized kind that requires certain precautions for everyone's safety." Sophia moved toward our front door keys, jingling, clearly wanting to end this interrogation. But Ruby wasn't done playing 20 questions with someone who owed her 0 explanations. "Specialized security in our neighborhood. What kind of threats are you expecting here? Should the rest of us be concerned about our safety?" Each question carried this underlying accusation, like Sophia had brought danger just by existing. That's when my wife did something I'd rarely seen. She stopped walking, turned around slowly, and fixed Ruby with a look that could freeze hell over. The kind of threats that make it necessary for qualified professionals to carry protection. "Look, I appreciate your concern, but it's been a very long day, and I'd really like to get inside my house now." As we escaped inside, I noticed Tom from across the street, doing this weird thing where he was walking his dog, except his dog was already inside, and he was clearly eavesdropping. When he caught my eye, he shook his head and mouthed, "Good luck." He wandered over as Ruby headed back to her house, still typing furiously on her phone. "Your wife's brave," Tom whispered, glancing toward Ruby's house. Ruby's had serious issues with guns for about 5 years now, ever since... He trailed off, shaking his head. "Just be careful, man. She's got connections, and she doesn't like being told no." Through our living room window, I watched Ruby in her driveway, with her phone pressed to her ear, gesturing wildly toward our house, like she was giving someone a play-by-play. Even from a distance, I could see her excitement, the kind people get when they think they've stumbled onto something big. She ended her call, pulled out that tablet, and started taking photos of our house, zooming in with deliberate precision that made my skin crawl. Later that night, I found Sophia at our kitchen table with her laptop open, staring at the screen with a frown. "Everything okay?" I asked, pouring water and trying to read her expression. She gestured at the screen without looking up, fingers drumming in that rhythm she used when thinking hard. I tried searching for information about this neighborhood, the HOA, anything unusual about previous residents. Found some interesting patterns about families who have moved away, but nothing concrete. Just this feeling we're not getting the whole story. She looked up with those sharp detective eyes. "Ruby Miller isn't just a busybody neighbor, Adam. She's something else entirely." And that feeling would prove more accurate than either of us realized. Because while we were talking, Ruby was conducting her own research, typing Sophia Reed Detroit Security into her search engine and finding absolutely nothing. I could see her through her office window, face illuminated by the computer screen, growing darker with each failed search. She tried different combinations, different spellings, but every search came up empty. Finally, she sat back, drummed her fingers, then leaned forward and typed one more search term, something that made her eyes widen and mouth fall open. "No way," she whispered to her empty office voice, mixing disbelief with growing excitement that should have terrified us. "This is too good to be true." She reached for her phone, scrolled through contacts like looking for someone specific, and selected a number she'd clearly been saving for exactly this occasion. The call connected after 2 rings, and Ruby's voice took on a tone I'd never heard. Professional, conspiratorial, absolutely thrilled. "Thompson, it's Ruby Miller. We have a situation developing, and I think you're going to want to hear about this opportunity." 72 hours later, we didn't receive one legal document. We received 3, all about the gun. I'm talking certified mail official letterhead, the whole intimidation package delivered right to our doorstep, like legal Christmas morning, except nobody was celebrating. The first email arrived at exactly 9 a.m. on Monday with the subject line, "Violation notice, immediate attention required." Ruby had CC'd her lawyer, which should have been my first red flag that this wasn't just neighborhood drama anymore. "Dear Mr. and Mrs. Reed," it began, "you are hereby notified of a violation of HOA Regulation 3.4.5 possession of weapons that cause reasonable concern among residents." Reasonable concern, the woman had practically done cartwheels when she saw Sophia's gun. The second document was even more impressive. A petition with 23 signatures from 25 households, all expressing deep worry and fear regarding the presence of firearms in our peaceful community. 23 signatures collected in just 3 days. I had to admire Ruby's efficiency. The petition requested immediate removal of all weapons from the property or enforcement of appropriate safety measures to protect innocent families. But the third document was the real masterpiece, a bill for $500 monthly enhanced security fee to cover additional safety monitoring required due to elevated risk factors in the neighborhood, $500, for what exactly Ruby's enhanced surveillance hobby. The letter explained that homes with high-risk elements needed extra oversight to maintain community standards. Here's where things got interesting, though. I'm pretty good with details. It comes with being a graphic designer. And something bothered me about that petition. The signatures all looked fresh, but the paper had that slightly aged look you get when documents sit around for a while. I decided to do some detective work of my own and knocked on a few doors, just friendly neighbor conversation, you understand. Mrs. Peterson from 4 houses down was happy to chat. "Oh yes, Ruby came by about 2 weeks ago asking about gun safety in the neighborhood. Sweet woman, always looking out for everyone's best interests. 2 weeks ago, we'd only moved in 10 days ago." My stomach dropped as the timeline started coming together. Ruby had been collecting signatures before we'd even unpacked our first box. I confronted Ruby that afternoon while she was power washing her already spotless driveway. "Interesting timing on that petition," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "Collecting signatures before you even knew we had a gun shows remarkable foresight. She shut off the pressure washer and fixed me with a stare.